Welcome to the Better Brains for Babies. My name is Elizabeth Ronchín Cartagena, and I work for Case Day Research and Extension. Today, we're going to talk about the ACES, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. So, as I mentioned before, I work for Case Day Research and Extension. We are in Epic County, and we are a statewide network of educators sharing unbiased research-based information and expertise on issues important in Kansas. So, like we always have mentioned, we are the only person that can make a difference in a child's life. You as a parent, you as a mom, you as a dad, you as a grandparent, you as a caregiver, you are the only one that you can count on making a difference in that child. We cannot relate in anybody else. Imagine that a child's brain is like the house, like we mentioned before this. So it's like how you build a house. You have the foundation, then you have the wall, and in that, when you put the walls, you have plan already where the doors and the windows are going to be, and then the roof and all that cables that you need that to have electricity and different things in the house, the plumbing and stuff. And so, but if you leave it in a corner, that wouldn't do any good. The house has the potential of have electricity and have all the fancy stuff that you can put in there. But if you don't make the create a connection, it won't happen. And it's the same as a child. The child comes with so much potential. And unless we expose them to nice and healthy experiences, that maybe the potential that he was born with, I cannot be developed. So this slide here features the 5 numbers to remember about the development of young children. We're going to learn how the numbers illustrate such concepts as the importance of early childhood to the learning, behavior, and health of the later life, and why getting things right the first time, like we do in the house, is easier and more effective than trying to fix them later. It's better to decide where you want that door or where you want that window and any other stuff. Because if you change your mind, it's going to take time, money, people. It can happen, but it will be harder. And you have to do more stuff to get it done right. And so we have 700 per second, 18 months, 9 to 100%, 3 out of 1 odds, and $4 to $9. We're going to talk about those numbers. The early years matter because in the first few years of life, 700 new neuron connections are formed every second. Neural connections are formed through the interaction of genes and a baby's environment and experiences, especially serve and return. We mentioned before. That is when your child sends you a smile or a cooing, and you respond to that. So it is important for us to pay attention to those cues, that the child is sending us. Even when they're like a little bit older, this is for life. Human beings, they need this interaction and response, positive response from the other people. That's how we interact with others. And so it starts when they're babies, when first day they're looking at you and you look at them and you talk to them. And you kiss them, you hug them, you sing songs, you read books. And that interaction is what creates trust and attachment. So that serve and return is very important. And also what developmental research called the contingent reciprocity, sorry. These are the connections that build brain architectures and the foundation upon which all later learning, behavior, and health depend. So this is what happens. Those first 3 years, it is a foundation that is going to affect the whole life. And look at those 700 neural connections per second. Newborn has a few, 6 months have more, and look at 2 years old. There's a lot of connection built in the baby's brain. Early experiences and the environment in which the children develop in the earliest year can have lasting impact on later success in school and life. Barriers to children's education achievement start early and continue to grow without intervention. Differences in the size of the children's vocabulary first appear at 18 months of age, based on whether they were born into a family with high education and income or low education and income. By age 3, children with college-educated parents or primary caregivers had vocabulary 2 to 3 times larger than those that whose parents had not completed high school, for example. By the time these children reach school, they are already behind their peers unless they are engaged in a language-rich environment early in life. And this is in general, because in my case, I come from a low-income family, but my parents were very active on reading and reading books, and even we didn't have too much money for maybe vacation, but that money was used for an encyclopedia. Maybe you don't know what is that, maybe you do. So that we have kind of like a mini library in my house. My parents really believe on reading and books. TV was not encouraged at all. So there are exceptions, but in general, the more education you have, the more that you pass to your children. So significant adversity impairs development in the first 3 years of life. And the more adversity a child faces, the greater the odds of the developmental delay. In fact, risk factors such as poverty, caregiver mental illness, childhood maltreatment, single parents, and low maternal education have a cumulative impact. Children exposed to 6 or 7 or these risks face a 90 to 100% likelihood of having 1 or more delays in their cognitive, language, or emotional development. So early experiences actually get into the body with lifelong effects, not just on cognitive or emotional development, but on long-term physical health as well. A growing body of evidence now links significant adversity in childhood to increased risk of a range of adult health problems. And that include diabetes, hypertension, stroke, obesity, and some form of cancer. So this graph shows that adults who recall having 7 or 8 serious adverse experiences in childhood are 3 times more likely to have cardiovascular disease as an adult. And children between birth and 3 years of age are the most likely age, the group that experienced some form of maltreatment. 16 out of every 1,000 children experience it. That's why we have You have received all those lessons on the Better Brains for Babies. So you have that knowledge. And so on those first 3-5 years, you have to know as much as you can for the children development, how my baby is developing, what my baby needs. We're talking physically and emotionally. Sometimes we have everything. We have the milk and clothing and housing and everything, but the emotional part is neglected. And that also affects the children. So providing young children with a healthy environment in which to learn and grow is not only good for their development. Economists have also shown that high quality early childhood program brings impressive returns on investment to the public. That's why we are teaching these lessons in the community. 3 of the most rigorous long-term studies found a range of return between $4 and $9 for every dollar invested in learning programs for low-income children like Better Brains for Babies. So the more we learn, then that has an effect, financial effect, and not just physical, emotional, but also financial. Program participants follow into adult benefited from increased earnings, while the public saw returns in the form of reduced special education, reduced on welfare, reduced on crime costs, and increased tax revenue for program participants later in life. So the more we learn, we're going to see benefits in different ways. So getting things right the first time is easier and more effective than trying to fix them later. Early childhood matters because experiences early in life can have a lasting impact on later learning, behavior, and health. Highly specialized interventions are needed as early as possible for children experiencing toxic stress. Early life experiences actually get under the skin and into the body with lifelong effects on adult physical and mental health. And all society benefits from investment in early childhood and bringing parenting classes in the community. So ACES again, we're talking about the first childhood experiences that we want to avoid as much as we can with education. So what are the adverse childhood experiences that we're talking about? Childhood experiences are abuse, neglect, and family dysfunction. And what is their impact? These incidents harm social, cognitive, and emotional functioning for children, and dramatically upset the safe and nurturing environment children need to thrive. So there was a collective effort that the groups in the agencies in the state came and they did a study on what are those adverse childhood experiences and how we can test them. And so they did some phone calls and different ways to collect that information. So ACES study provides a paradigm shift on addictions and unhealthy behavior. And our new learning of how we approach when you see something that is not making sense, sometimes we say, what's wrong with you? We have, oh, well, children, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong. When you say that, you're in other ways saying that something you are not built right. Instead, when you say what happened to you, means that that child came with all the potential in something from external environment has had some impact on him, and we have to ask what happened to you, what's wrong with you. That really impacts our self-esteem when somebody asks that. But if I ask what happened to you, that implies that you have empathy and you want to see what is affecting you from the outside. That is a different approach. And we talked about stress already. I'm going to do it very quick because we have done it before. So the stress is any external stimulus that threatens the balance of the normal equilibrium in the body. So you are sitting and you are relaxing, and then you hear a big boom, or somebody touch you very abruptly, and you jump. That is, you were calm, and something from the outside impacted you. And we talk about the parts of the brain. The limbic system, it is the part that we're going to talk. The limbic system, remember, that was the one that amygdala registered emotions, hippocampus saved it, and those are the memories. The cerebellum is in the back, and it's part of the brainstem. It is the survival concepts that we need, like breathing and sucking, or our heart beats. Those are survival things. And so all of the brain responds to anything that is coming to us from the outside. The cerebral cortex is where the prefrontal cortex, it is where we reason, we make judgment, the self-control is there. And the stress response is when that stress comes, and naturally your body releases the cortisol, the hormone cortisol, for you to fight or fly, or sometimes freeze. But it's for you to defend yourself. And that's how your heartbeat increases, and the adrenaline is there, and all the focus is going to be on that threat, so you can survive. Okay? So those are the primitive part of the brain in function. There are 3 stress levels. The positive stress response is a normal and essential part of healthy development. It's characterized by brief increases in heart rate and mild elevation of that cortisol. Some situations that might trigger a positive stress response, maybe to the first day that the baby goes to the daycare, for example, or somebody is is taking care of the baby, the parents, or immunization. Those are things that receive that, but your parents are there. No, I'll be back. Or you soothe the baby when have the shots, and the parents are there. People are there, and so that passed. The tolerable stress response activates the body alert system to a greater degree as a result of more severe, longer-lasting difficulties, such as I lost grandma, I lost grandpa, or dad, a natural disaster, a frightening injury, moving to a new home, changing childcare providers constantly, a divorce or remarriage, or the birth of a sibling. If the activation is time limited and buffering by a relationship with adults to help them, the child adapt, then the brain and the other organs, it will be mitigated by that impact of that stress. We have the next one. Remember, we're going to increase in the stress. The toxic stress response can occur when a child experiences strong frequent and prolonged adversity, such as physical or emotional abuse, chronic neglect, caregiver system abuse or mental illness, exposure to violence. Maybe the violence is not with toward that child, but to experience that, or the accumulated burden of the family economy hardship without adequate adult support. Things that can happen, but if there are people around that child that are with them physically, emotionally, those things will pass, and the child has that network that has that help. And so if the stress is mitigated, but if there's nobody there, or almost no anybody there helping the child, that will impact the child. And so this kind of prolonged activation of the stress response, that cortisol running, because the child has to be alert all the time, can disrupt the development of the brain architecture and other organ systems, and increase the risk for stress-related disease and cognitive impairment well into the adult years. When that survival skills comes, or the responses, I should say, the primitive responses to defend yourself is activated. So that's the part of the brain that is developed more. And the part that is the prefrontal cortex, that is where you make judgment, you make decisions, you think, you learn, you have self-control, you have your personality. That part will not be developed as much because the primitive responses are the one that are activated all the time. So it then goes to the adulthood. And we want the prefrontal cortex to be developed, and that happens when the child is learning through the senses and putting it, but exposing him to an experience that are very healthy. That part starts developing more in the back. But when you are in constant stress and nobody's helping the child, and it's a constant violence, constant stressful environment, then the back of your brain is the one developed, not the front. And in life, we want the front more developed than the back. And that will happen when there's people around that child connecting and bringing better experiences. That the better experiences are more than the healthy experiences, and that's how the prefrontal cortex will develop more. That's what we need for life. So short-term stress does not harm brain development. Children who learn how to manage small stressors in a supportive environment develop the brain wiring they need to handle stress. So stress is going to come. But when you have people with mom, dad, grandparents, siblings, helping that child when it tries to be there, and it's okay, you're going to do better, and that passes. And he's going to learn, yeah, there's stress, but I have people, I have my network with me, my safe net. And supporting, nurturing adults help children develop the wiring in their brains to cope during stressful times. And so this is very important because it is what we need. And so this is the danger from prolonged stress. When that stress is happening for a long time, the connections in the brain of the baby cannot be active because what the brain is doing is trying to defend from that threat. So the survival instincts is the one that will be more active, and that persistent hyperarousal is there. The child is constantly looking that threat doesn't come, how to look at themselves, in positivity, anything that comes to him, he will be like yelling or fighting, and all things reduce the ability to learn, and the memory loss is also there. Repeated exposure to violence can alter the brain development, like we said. The intensity and the frequency of the trauma determines how the brain internalizes the traumatic event. The brainstem and the limbic system set up a fight and flight response to trauma or the memory of the trauma. The brain may attempt to protect itself through impulsiveness or withdrawal. Some kids are very quiet and there will be a withdrawal. And you see the children that are very quiet and want to be by themselves. Or if the personality is active, it will be impulsive. In children who have experienced trauma or violence tend to react without thinking, to strike out, or to withdraw to protect themselves, like we said. Children who experience prolonged trauma or neglect may not do well in school because they're thinking, even if the school is calm, sometimes if the stress is severe, they think they're still there. And that thought is all the time in that thread, even if everything is fine in the school. May not be able to learn or process the information because the survival instincts are the one active, not the learning, which is the prefrontal cortex in the front of your head. May exhibit an aggressive behavior, may not be able to develop caring relationship with others because somebody wants to be a friend with another kid that is violent. Will reflect the environment in which the child has been raised. So the ACES studies use a simple scoring method to determine the extent of each participant exposure to the child trauma. The exposure to one category of ACEs qualify as 1 point, so all of them are 1 point. And when the points are added up, the ACEs score is achieved. So we know how many of them. So physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, an alcohol or drug abuser in the household, an incarcerated household member, so someone who is chronically depressed, has mental illness, or in an institution, or have suicidal thoughts, or intend to be suicidal. Mother that is treated violently, or I will say also dads that have we have some questions like that is the one treated violently, one or no parents, and the emotional or physical neglect. Those are the tests that is given to know how many ACEs the person have experienced. So there are three types of ACEs: the abuse, the physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, the neglect, physical and emotional, household dysfunction, mental illness, incarcerated relative, mother treated violently, substance abuse, and divorce. And bullying is also included in that. So the impacts on behavior, the lack of physical activity, smoking, alcoholism, drug use, and missed work. So when that they have the severe stress, this is how we behave. And the physical and mental health, severe obesity, diabetes, depression, suicidal attempts, STDs, heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, broken bones or fragile bones. This is one of the tests that they did in Washington school, one of the schools. 30 students, they're high school, sophomore, and seniors, and this is what they found. So they hired the ACEs is the higher possibility that the child is not learning like they should. And like we said before, when the students are all adults, when they become adults, maybe some of those diseases are going to be shown when as they age. So the significant adversity impairs development the first 3 years. Those 3 years or 5 years are so important. The frequency, the severity, and the timeline. It will impact in physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, the alcohol and drug abuse in the household, the incarcerated household member, so someone that is chronically depressed. All of these we mentioned already as the ACEs. Mental ill, institutionalized, or suicidal, moderate street violently, one or no parents, and emotional or physical neglect. So the frequency and the severity and when that happened is going to be very impactful. If that happened this first 3 years, it's going to be very, very significant because the brain architecture is going to be changed dramatically. If that happened when the child is a teenager, it will impact also. But that brain the foundation has been developed, but when they're teenagers, and the diseases when they're adults are going to be different than if it's that happened in the first 3 years. So continuing with the impact of the ACEs, as the number of ACEs increases, so the risk of negative health outcomes. So this is a development URL. So the healthy brain, we have the fight or flight reflexes at the bottom, the basic survival reflexes, and then you have the emotion, and then you have the thought and control. So healthy brain, we have stress, but we have people around us helping us to let stress. And so that emotional attachment is there as a group, as a family members. And that gives opportunity for good experiences, exposure of new learning. And so that thought and control is there. You can see is the biggest part of the pyramid, because you have learning, you have ways to learn and to think about things. The self-control is there. But when the brain is traumatized, the biggest part is the basic survival reflex. And then the emotion is less, the relation is less. And then the one that is the time of the part of learning, the thinking, the experiencing good and healthy things in life is very minimum. And that doesn't allow that child to learn like they should, have self-control as they should, because the survival reflexes are the one taking over. And the telomeres are very interesting. Exposure to violence during the childhood associated with the telomere erosion. So the telomeres are the ends of DNA strands, which are shortened with each cellular division and contribute to aging. Same children examined for telomere erosion between 5 and 10 age. They did that test. And the physical abuse in childhood caused advanced erosion to the telomeres. Combination of physical abuse, exposure to domestic violence, or bullying cause the most erosion. Children are at increased risk for decreased the lifespan and early diseases. So that means if that any of the strands are the one in charge of us aging, and the adverse childhood experiences are going to be affecting that. So instead of they have a natural erosion, like everybody, that's why when we're babies and then we grow, that's the part of is in charge of us aging. But the physical abuse, the exposure to domestic violence or bullying are the experiences that are going to cause the erosion most. And so that is going to, if you have a lot of erosion in there, so our children, when they were like adults, their lifespan is going to be shorter than it should be. So lifetime influences birth to death, so that first children experience are the most in their life of a child. The social, emotional, cognitive impairments are going to come. Then the adoption of health risk behaviors are the one going up. Then the disease, injuries, and disability will come because of that adverse childhood experience, and early death is going to happen. How do ACEs affect our society? Let's look at the life expectancy. People with 6 or more ACEs died really nearly 20 years earlier on average than those without the ACEs. So the life of that child that has those experiences, traumatic experiences, is going to affect how long they're going to live. And so their life will be cut 20 years or so from the life that they should have, the many years that they should have. So here is a person without any few early experiences that are traumatic, and he is 80 years old. He's there. He died when he's 80 years old. But a person that has 6 or more of those traumatic experiences, he dies at 60. So this is why we are bringing this information and all those education pieces in the community. So we want everybody to have a life that is as healthy as possible, and they can, if they were meant to die when they're 100, well, that's the way, and not when they're like less than that, because of the experiences that if we have the information, we're going to avoid those experiences when the person was a baby. And economical toll, we said that before, is going to be better on criminal justice, child welfare, the special education, the healthcare, and it will be good on the productivity when they're at work. So child maltreatment prevention is a public health issue. So it's the magnitude of the problem, the significant public health burden, and the potential of the contribution to solutions. We're going to see the data between Kansas and national. This is what we were talking about before, how they do you get the data of the people living in Kansas. So here's the ACEs, this amount of ACEs. 0, 1, 2, 3, plus or more, and the comparison on cancers in the nation. So comparing the cancers in the nation on people not having those traumatic experiences is higher. And having one is almost the same as nation, but a little bit lower. And 2 ACEs is lower than nation. 3 ACEs, it is 7.4, and so it's almost, but Kansas is a little lower. And 4 or more, nation has a little bit more than Kansas. We want to be aware of getting less and less comparing with nation. In Kansas, we are almost as a nation on physical abuse, and a little bit more than the nation on sexual abuse, and a little bit less than emotional abuse comparing with the whole nation. And substance abuse were almost the same as nation. And we, like I said, we want to be away from the nation. So we're teaching these lessons. Kansas on reports, so a little bit less than national. And mental illness is a little bit less. The nation, modern treated violently, it's the same, or little very just 1% more than national. Incarcerated relative, we have a little bit more than nation. So the high scores, a little more, are seen among women compared with men. Those with lower annual household income, those with lower educational attainment, non-Hispanic or multiracial adults, non-heterosexual adults, and those less than 65 years old. So we compare to adults with no ACEs, the adults with high scores or more have higher prevalence of current smoking, binge drinking, no leisure time, physical activity, the obesity is there. So those are how people are behaving on having 3 or more ACEs. 14 or more days of poor mental health. They suffer arthritis, 14 more days of poor physical health, poor or fair general health. Depression is there, asthma and COPD is there. Disabilities are there, and kidney diseases. And so we're doing this, bringing that information, and that's what the research is doing. But we have to cross the bridge for doing something about it, which is the practice. So everything that you learn here, if you don't practice, if you don't put that into practice, the change will not come. So just think about that. You have this information and you have this video, you can go back again and you watch it, and parts that you want to remember more. And we're going to do something about it. And that's the only way that we bring changes for our babies, our children, because whatever change we bring is going to bring a good impact on the children. If we don't have that, if we don't do anything and practicing what we learn, it's going to have an impact, but it will be negative, and we want the good impact for our children. So 5 protective factors is resiliency to stress. So you have to be there for your babies, for your kids as a parent, as a caregiver. No matter what happened in your life, you are together, helping each other emotionally to find new resources in the community to mitigate that stress. The social connection, we need to be out there connecting with people, talking to our neighbors or talking to our family members and maybe they're not close. We have to have the knowledge of the child development, how a baby that is not even a year old behaves. And we have those milestones per, months and then years. And you have to know how they are developed at the moment. And through that information, that's how you're going to raise them. Concrete support in crisis, you are having a problem, you find people that can help you, we find agencies in the community to help you to figure out how to get out of that crisis. And very important, the parent-child attachment. And for that attachment, please read where is my child in this age, so I can connect, and that serve and return is in my mind all the time. My child wants to tell me something, even when it's a baby, because they have weight. I'll go there and check what they need, and I am supplying that need. When they are like 4 and 5, it's the same thing. We are humans that we need that connection. And what I tell you, I want you to respond, healthy responses. And so how we promote resiliency, I think we have here the capability, the intellectual and employable skills, regulation, self-control, ability to direct and control attention and emotion and behavior, the positive self-view and efficacy, find ways for you to practice the self-control and regulate yourself and be finding ways to relax yourself. Flexible thinking, that you don't have chosen one way of doing things, but there may be different ways to do it. And that is all that helps you as a person. Attachment and belonging, having those positive relationships with competent and nurturing adults, the friend have friends, and the romantic partner who provides a sense of security, belonging, help with those emotion coaching. And also the community and the culture and the spiritually, and that is out there. So start with yourself, and then with your family and the attachment, and then goes to the community. And how can we in the capability regulate ourselves? Well, there's different ways. Massage, mindful reflection, be in the moment, be thankful for what you have. You say, well, I don't have too much, but you have something. And if you are grateful and you're happy about what you have, that brings more happiness. There's a biofeedback techniques, music helps, and movement, exercise, walking around. You don't have to have money to go to a gym. There are ways in the nature that is so soothing and that helps you. You don't need any money. Physical activities, practicing connection, all of those things will help you as a person. And attach on belonging, developing ceremonies or rituals. If I have a birthday, let's celebrate birthday, and you don't have to have a huge party. It's just something, a little cupcake or a little pancake or a little whatever, and you just celebrate the way that you can, and celebrate those holidays. Do something different, maybe on Sundays you have the practice of going for a walk, things like that, including others in therapeutic healthy and health promoting activities, engaging in multiple family or whole community dialogues. Like I said, it's just you and then your family and then it's like different circles, the community. Setting up mutual support of helping system, creating art, movement, rhythm, music, learning together. Uh, so when you see the child, like setting up mutual support or helping system, it is like when somebody's struggling about something in school, or tying their shoes. Those are things that are big for children. For us, we learn it and we forgot about it. But if any struggle, be there for the children and be there for your significant other. And that's how the belonging uh, covers you. And when some crisis come, you are together, you're ready. It's kind of like an emotional bank account that I mentioned many times in my classes. When we do take care of each other in the house, each person has their emotional bank account, and that is full. When you're looking at your children and you instead of criticizing all the time, no, I'm going to find something good in the child. They were eating, and the child took the bowl and put it in the sink or in the dishwasher. These are good things. And you say, oh, Charles, I'm so glad that you clean after yourself. This will give you more time to wash stuff. And so they will feel good. Or, oh, you have a very happy face today. And those are bank accounts that you put in, this money that you put in their bank account. And when the crisis come or the difficult time, you have had a bunch of good things in their account. It will be uncomfortable, but they know that your pattern is to bring goodness from them. Sometimes we have to discipline, because that's the way that it is. But we're going to do it in a way that is fair, and it has been explained before time and why you have that rule, and so they know. And when that rule comes and is broken, then you say, well, remember why we're going to do this? And if that happens next time, you're going to go to timeout, or you're going to give me the iPad for half day, and things like that. And if you're interested on discipline techniques, I have another class that I can share with you, and it's for approval. And so as a community, there's opportunity for everyone to lead. We have ways to get in the community, that you can feel part of it and you own it. And that's how your children are going to see, and they're going to copy you when they are older. So 3 concepts of the early childhood is the experiences build brain architecture or the brain health. And the serve and return interact sharpens or shapes the brain circuitry. So the child cries, you go there and see what's happening. This cry is a way of language, the way of communication. And or if the child is cooing, you talk. Oh yeah, that would be very nice. Whatever you want to say. So that conversation is there, and we feel connected. So the toxic stress derails the healthy development. That's why we don't want that toxic stress. And ways to mitigate that stress is loving responses, consistent relationship, the safe environment, and we're not just talking about the physical environment, like putting covering the outlets and or putting the detergents away from the children, but also the emotional. That means they will interact with each other. The experience regulating the stress supportive environment, like we said, the development of trust. The child is sending you something, you are there for them. The faster you come to see what is the need and you provide it, the stronger the trust. That child doesn't have to pray a lot. But if you're not there and there's a need, they have a need. So they will be crying more because they have to be, that need have to be met. If they're hungry, they need food. And so having those relationships that you're there for them and whatever they say you is in a nice way, that connection brings them to be strong, emotionally strong, which is their resiliency. And having consistency is one of the ways that we take away the stress in children. That you are regular and predictable by providing an environment where the routines around daily living are predictable, and the children can be less stressed and much more relaxed when they know what's coming. Taking the time to keep a routine predictable benefits the children, but the parents also, because they know how they will go day by day by day. We're going to have maybe some changes because life is about changes, but you go back to the routine again. And the children will learn that that's how life goes. Maybe today you're going to stay at grandma's or a neighbor for a little bit until mom goes to the doctor. They don't like that, but that won't happen all the time, just certain times. And so the schedule and the routines will help them to predict what's coming. And that's emotional stability is going to be built. So the routines are doing certain things in a certain order at approximately the same time. And that help the children to be confident about themselves and because they know what is expected. That child knows that as soon as they get up, or whatever you have, you brush your teeth, or you eat first and then brush your teeth. So every family has different things. And so even when they cannot understand the time, or they know that this is what is coming first, next every day. And the order in the house is another way of taking more stress out of the house. When you have an orderly, organized environment, help the children to know what to expect and give them a feeling of security and control. Children will know where things are. And so the time of cleaning up or putting things away or finding things, they know exactly where they are. And we know as an adult how chaotic it is when we don't find the keys. We don't find that paper that I have to sign and send, or that bill that I know I have been supposed to pay yesterday. But if you have things in their place, tell the children everything has a house. We have a house. The shoes has a house or a space. Your backpack has a house. Put your backpack in the backpack house, which is the space of the house. And so that's how that relaxation comes, because I'm going to find things. And flexibility change because age or special occasion, like I said. But everything has to be in a way that is predictable. This is how that's the way that human beings work. We have to predict. So what adult can do to support brain development again? Ensure physical health, safety, and good nutrition. Respond sensitively and consistently to children's needs. Provide ongoing and enriching experiences. Take them outside. Play with the mud. Have them in the kitchen with something that they can do that is safe. Just steer for, I will hold the ball and you steer the whatever, oatmeal, whatever you want to. But it have to be safe and age appropriate. Talk to them, sing to them, read with them, create opportunity for play and exploration, and repeat. That's how the brain gets stronger. Those those connections when you repeat the same thing. They want to read you the book 10 times. Or the whole or the same book all the time. Do it. This is what they needed. So when you look at children who came out of terrible environments and do well, you find someone in their life somehow instilling in them the attitude that they are not helpless, they are not powerless, and they can do something. And this quote is from Dr. Bruce Perry. He's a guru on brain development. And so essential for childhood, it is a way of helping the children to develop healthy and bring that information. So safety, stability, and nurturing is essential for childhood development. And this is all the coalitions that were working from the beginning on ACES. And this is where you can find out about information. I hope that this information helps you to understand more, or maybe this is the first time that somebody had put things together like this and they were like, whoa. And so if you need to watch this video again, if you need this video to be shared with others, and maybe say, no wonder I am suffering from this disease, and I know when I was raised, I was treated well. And so that's our understanding and sharing this information with others to, hey, we need to change the ways that we're raising our children, and making things now with more intention because I know that. So here is the last slide, and here is the evaluation link. Please complete that, and today is the last day. So when you're done and we receive the evaluation feedback, we send you the certificate, and thank you for the time that you have spent here, because I know you have learned a lot. We are not born with this knowledge, and as a parent, we have to be open to any information that is out there to help us be their parents and really enjoy being the parent. Because our children needs us, and it is fun, and it is very rewarding when you know that you have done things to change the ways that we have maybe learned from our parents or other people. The best wishes to you, and please send that feedback, and you will receive the certificate.